I see often. So why do people cheat? A lot of times you're seeing that they're unsatisfied in the relationship. So the lack of sex or the lack of communication, they feel neglected, they feel ignored.
Wah.
You hear that, right? Another point that sometimes is unnoticed is that they're unsatisfied within themselves, right?
There you go.
Right? They don't like the person they've become. They've been married for 20 years. They're so regimented in their day-to-day
activities.
activities.
They've made a lot of money. They're looking for some new
Right, they're looking for some new excitement. They feel like, their lives is not what they wanted their lives to be. So they look for something new that's going to give them a sense of energy, a dopamine high, something exciting. Another thing that in some cases they believe that their partner is cheating. Now, they don't have any evidence.
That's projection.
That they believe their partner is cheating. And as a result, they feel like, hey, my partner is cheating. I'm doing something. They're doing something, so I'm going to go out there.
Is it true that when someone accuses you of cheating, that they're cheating themselves? You always hear that.
You hear that a lot. But I think sometimes there's a sense
not
of guilt.
Always, because I think sometimes people are really seeing signs, right?
Yeah.
That there is something going on, and then they're made to kind of feel like they're crazy.
Well, that's true, because I know I have never cheated on anyone. Not that I'm goody two-shoes. I just don't have it in my core. I could never do that to another human.
That could come from a place of insecurities as well. And then you have, sometimes believing that someone's cheating when they're not necessarily.
Yes.
And then they're morally ambiguous to where sometimes they're just trying to figure out, they're presented with a situation or a problem, and they don't really know what to do. So in turn, they end up doing the thing that's not necessarily right. They don't have a real script of a blueprint of how to focus or make decisions. So you see,
or they weren't raised with fathers or uncles or whoever that valued family and staying true to someone and building a lifelong relationship.
Right. And for them, maybe it's because for them, they don't view their relationship as something that, they have to be monogamous. Maybe they feel like there's options out there for a reason. So they're more morally ambiguous, and they're not really strong in any decision that they're making.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that they shouldn't get married. I think that people should take marriage very seriously, especially if you're going to have children.
But that goes into that question, why did I get married, right? There was a meeting about that by a movie by Tyler Perry maybe 10 years ago. That was a long time ago. And it asked an important question. When people are sitting down in my office and they want to get marriage counseling or premarital counseling, I say, well, hey, why do you want to get married? Because that's important. Your why.
Because I want a modern day slave.
Where you got to think, the original premise of marriage was basically based on economics, right? For two families, we come together, we increase our revenue. And at that point, it wasn't always about love, because infidelity has always been around, right? So people would commit adultery to go out there and, find their love, because the person that they were partnered with was not the person that they actually loved. But now there's a lot more risk associated with adultery. Yeah.
Well, is there a difference between an affair and infidelity?
Well, yeah. So when you're talking about an affair, adultery, things like that, that's more of a legal term. That's more.
Well, at the end of the day, marriage is nothing more than a legal document.
Right.
And if you don't think so, just wait till you go to get a divorce someday.
So that stems from, engaging in kind of, physical or, emotional relationship with someone, but basically physical relationship, because it's mainly something that we get from our religious beliefs or from a legal document. When we're talking about infidelity can happen, and it doesn't have to involve sex. Infidelity can involve an emotional connection with someone. It can involve sending naked pics to someone. It can involve a various gamut of things to where you just feel like somebody's being dishonest.
But isn't that cheating after all? Whether it's body, mind, or spirit, cheating is cheating. Just because you didn't touch that person physically doesn't mean that you're not cheating. At least that's how I feel. I think I'd rather have, if it was myself, I would rather have my husband or wife, cheat physically rather than emotionally, because then there's like a deep connection between them typically.
But don't you think it's easy for emotional affairs to happen? I mean, I've talked about this with a lot of clients and my friends. There's this slippery slope because of texting and email, and we've got this way to communicate all the time. Right. And you're doing work and it's late and somebody's like, oh, how's your night going? And if somebody says, oh, my wife is being a bee or something like that, then off and running, then you're talking about your personal life instead of work.
Right.
And you've immediately crossed that line.
Right.
And if you don't realize exactly the moment that line was crossed, then you're in trouble.
Yeah,
I
agree.
That sense of disloyalty, right? Crossing that line and disclosing things. But then again, and this is a personal story. So, I always say that sometimes cheating is subjective. 2 weeks ago, I was out with some friends. It was probably 1 a.m. We were in Los Angeles and we were talking about masturbation. And one of my friend's wives mentioned that, hey, watching porn and masturbation in her eyes was cheating. that was equal to having an affair. And so to where there were some other wives at the table and they were like, well, no, I don't see it that way. I think it's something that he's doing to take care of himself. So a lot of times having an understanding of what cheating means for that person is important, because you could be engaging in something, talking to an ex or something like that and not thinking anything of it, but your partner thinks you're cheating.
Yeah. Well, even before pornography, men have been, masturbating for years, and women too, and visualizing another person. So I don't know.
Playboys have been around.
Yeah,
a long
Playboys.
time.
I mean, get on Instagram if you want some material. Yes. I mean,
But do you agree? So I'm an imago therapist, and so it's all about that we start out with romantic love, and then we hit that power struggle. And people don't know how to navigate conflict, which is the normal undercurrent of every relationship. And I think that's where it comes out of, because if it gets too tense and too intense, some people just want to exit and go over here and think I'll start over with romantic love again, but they don't realize you get to that power struggle even quicker the next time. But it's like in a form of escape, just like pornography, just like, playing cards till 1 o'clock in the morning every Friday night with your friends instead of hanging out with your wife, because you can't deal with that conflict.
Well, the conflict stems from us not necessarily willing to discuss anything also, right? So sometimes the conflict is within. It's the fear that I want to go and talk to my partner about something that I'm unhappy with, or some feelings that I get from it, or is this relationship contemptuous? So sometimes the fact that couples run from conflict instead of running towards managing their conflict and learning that everybody has conflicts is how we manage it. Right. That's the thing that helps couples out. Some people are so conflict avoidant that you can never fix anything or grow as a couple if you're not willing to discuss things where you're uncomfortable, or in some cases where you've changed your beliefs on something that previously has been discussed.
Well, marriage is so difficult. You guys will never go out of business.
Well, we want to
make shortage.
We want to make it easier for people, though, and I think knowing that conflict is real and normal, I think makes it easier.
Well, I think that people sleep together way too soon. And they get married way too soon. That's what I think. And that in itself, until you get to know that person and what they really want, what their goals are, what they really, really want out of life, and shut down the sex and talk about it, and hang out instead of going right to the bedroom. I think there would be a lot less divorce.
A lot of people are getting caught up in that kind of feeling of euphoria, that emotional high where you meet somebody, you guys hang out, you have fun, the sexual chemistry is great, the conversations are great, and 6, 7, 8 months later you're engaged, and a year and a half later you're married. Yep. But you're still kind of in that stage where everything is all good and everything is all well. And I always say, did you really take the time to get to know the person? Right?
It's so important.
When you're marrying someone, you're marrying their beliefs and the decisions they make, because that affects the relationship.
Absolutely.
And people, they don't feel that way. Sometimes they feel like, oh, well, no, it's okay. We discuss everything. Well, really? Did you?
Yeah. Well, isn't it true that the more commonality that you have, that the more successful the marriage will probably be? Is that true?
I would say that it's more so your willingness to discuss any indifference that you have. That's going to determine the success, the communication. Even if you have things in common, but you're not willing to discuss them, and you're not willing to discuss when they change, that can be a kind of a path to divorce.
I want to do a podcast after the broadcast just for like 10 minutes. I don't know if you guys have time, but if you do, I would love to. Some of those up there are great. I think we've got number 10 up there now. We did one last week, but I'm afraid to put it out there. It was about something very spicy.
It was about sex.
It was about sex and some other stuff, yeah. But great having you in studio.
Thank you so much.
Always love having you here. And Beth Reeder Johnson and DeWone Bennett, you guys, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. You know what? You get one body, you get one mind, and you get one life. Get out there today and make the most of it.